I think there are a bunch of questions coming on. I'll pick one of them quickly from Kim Zana. They ask like, what do you suggest as the attraction channels that TA can use to establish connection with tech talents?
Um, I think I think for that, I think we have way too many options right now in the industry. I'm not sure at what level this question is being asked, but as far as channels are concerned, I think right now, while the number of options have increased for employers and employees both, the good thing is that um, there's tremendous acknowledgement for talent acquisition related technology, which is why there are multiple platforms which have been kind of created. I think there are some of the very large ones which are kind of already there. The usual suspects being LinkedIn, etc., and all of that. But there are multiple very focused players. I think uh, I'm happy to kind of have a more focused discussion with the individual who asked this question with respect to some of the channels is to that you can kind of focus on for very specialized talent. So you could have you have multiple places which have acknowledged the fact that there's a need for building the right kind of building on skills or competencies in the org, which is why there are multiple incubation academies which have kind of started. And it's a great thing, and I think it's a lot of them which are kind of getting created. At least they're understanding the problem statement. At least they're trying to solve it at an SD1 level or an early SD2 level. There are multiple academies which are kind of incubating folks for about 3 to 6 months time period to get them industry ready. Or somebody could be working in a services setup and would like to kind of um, would like to have be working in a scenario where you can be a full stack developer with much more complex problem statements that you can kind of solve. So I think the bunch of academies there which are kind of doing that. I'm just saying that this is an acknowledgement of the fact there's multiple tech and platforms being kind of created. Um, and I think this is a point in time where again some of the old frameworks need to kind of also work well. I think uh, organizations and employees need to kind of move from a framework from employee referral to probably naming, let's say, 5 people that you respect and say, tell that to go back and tell that to your talent acquisition team. These are the 5 people that I kind of respect, and can you go and fetch them? Let's not worry about rewards, or maybe you can have a rewards framework for that. I mean, that's organization specific. But if you are bringing in the best in talent, the best in breed talent, it makes sense to kind of not put the burden of a referral. So because a referral is usually a qualified application, but if you ask me who are the top 5 talent acquisition people that I really respect, I will just kind of rattle out like 5 names very easily, right? But if you ask me to kind of get their profiles, then I have to kind of go through the convincing route and all of that. If you don't have the time and space to kind of do that, I say that, hey, you are the recruiter, these are 5 names, why don't you kind of go and chase? And maybe I will try to kind of nudge them. That becomes an easier process than going through the whole kind of curve. The only thing is that you don't get the reward for it, or maybe a company can just have a different kind of a reward system for just pointing at one direction. So there are multiple things, and I think you need to kind of look at some of. There are a lot of things which will emerge from your core practices, but the execution method may kind of change. So outreaches are a very important aspect, but um, a very important element of recruiting. I mean, a good recruiting team will always have more than 30% of people will they kind of trying reaching out directly and see if you are able to kind of convert them. You can kind of look at multiple ways of running a marketing drip campaign, which is outbound oriented to kind of get the best of people interested. So I'll just throw a metric and I'll leave the rest of it to imagination. any good sales process, for any good sales process to yield a qualified lead, needs at least eight interactions, eight online interactions for the person to come up with a response. You don't know whether it's a positive response or a negative response, but the average response rate kind of across the world, this is something that HubSpot shared a couple of years back. The minimum number of interactions that you need is eight. And in one of my previous organizations, we did this experiment. It came up to about four and a half. The number of response rates was lower because it concerns your own individual career, and you don't have to take the burden of decisioning for the organization. You can take a decision for yourself very easily than your organization. So yeah, so all I can say is that if your candidate doesn't respond within your first email, you need to kind of get more innovative with respect to, because scientifically it is the overall research says that you need minimum four touch points. So how are you going to make those four touch points more interesting is as a question back to you. So that's a problem statement. I'm just breaking down the problem statement. Solution lies with you.
Yeah, I think you pointed out some very interesting ways to tackle this particular problem. Maybe even thinking it from the principles of persistence, or using technology to kind of stay in touch with these
Correct.
folks out there. And yeah, I think if
There's a third
we just
element, which is creativity, which is also very important, because persistence can be misconstrued, and people don't like to be pursued as well. So you need to be creative in that process.
definitely, yeah, yeah. I think we as founding members can vouch for it. We've been very much persistent enough in different ways. It took us some time to get creative, but yeah, okay. Coming, back to the agenda, we have a bunch of questions that are coming in. We'll keep taking them, but I'll probably take a few questions that are from the agenda as well.
Sure.
So, this one question that I wanted to ask is like, in this increasing competitive ecosystem, there are a lot of tech hiring solutions which are coming up on today's date. Okay, yeah. So yeah, so there are a lot of solutions that are coming on today's date, and they use different perspectives, different approaches to solving for tech hiring. Assessments platform, however, is one of those traditional tools which still are being leveraged by a range of companies, and technically are leveraged by most of the companies that you've been a part of. Okay, so I wanted to know what's your perspective in terms of these platforms. How do you think they help in the overall scheme of things from a technology hiring standpoint?
Uh, I would call them recruiter's best friend, in terms of you know get some get some tangible information on a candidate very early on in the process. You actually have something kind of nice and documented, and somebody has gone through the rigor of spent time and solved a problem statement. It could be a coding problem statement, or it could have been a scenario which would have given a lot of organizations end up giving case studies and all of that. And some of them are more automated in nature, so that you can actually get an objective score out of the assignment and all that. I think it really helps, as long as the problem statement which has been given is relevant to the process and the role being hired for. I think that is the point where, as long as that is being as long as that has been thought through well, and has been made relevant to the process or the role, it makes a lot of sense to kind of do some of those early assessments, which give very tangible results in the process. And it is also necessary, and some of these processes can also be executed very well if you have a robust career framework built within the organization. If it may sound like a heavy word, but if you are able to kind of do this per position as to what is the kind of competency framework that you're looking for a particular position, and you kind of break it down to kind of say, this is something that we can actually check at an early stage. If this is what we are going to check at an early stage, we can break it down and say that our problems need to be kind of designed. So once somebody is answering that, then these are the competencies which you can easily kind of pick up. So I think that element of breakdown partnership has to be, that much of thought process has to be put up to set it up. And once it gets set up, then you need to experiment for a few cases, see how it's kind of going. what is the correlation with respect to your success. And yeah, if there's a direct correlation, then I think it's fantastic, and you should, then you need to kind of keep replicating and probably upgrade or change basis needs. So I think they could be fantastic friends to the talent acquisition professionals in the whole process.